Until now, Africa remains the most unexplored continent on Earth. New finds on the continent continue to amaze scientists. Archaeologists from all over the world are fighting for the right to be the first to discover the secrets of the origin of mankind. Where has this race gone? Today, we will show the discoveries in Africa that shocked humanity. Hi friend, you are on the Kurtop channel. Oldest known species of Homo sapiens. Under the dome of the Moroccan sky in a place called Jebel Irhoud, archaeologists have made an amazing discovery. They have found the oldest remains of Homo sapiens known to us, namely, our direct ancestors. It turns out that these remains and stone tools found nearby date back to between 350,000 and 280,000 years ago. That's a whole 100,000 years older than the oldest specimens of Homo sapiens we've known so far. Unidentified head. Heads from Lydenburg is a set of clay heads discovered in South Africa. They are dated 500 AD and are the oldest known examples of Iron Age art south of the equator. In 1957, as a 10-year-old boy, Ludwig von Basing found these heads on his father's farm. A total of 7 heads were found. 2 of them are large enough to put on a child's head, the other 5 are half the size. They are all different, but each has something in common. For example, clay neck rings, which perhaps symbolized prosperity. Perhaps they were worn as masks during rituals, or they were attached to something during ceremonies. Child of Taung. This is the story of a small child from Taung whose skull, found in 1924, was one of the first ancient human fossils in Africa. The uniqueness of the Taung child's skull lies in its structure. For the first time, scientists have seen evidence of vertical bipedal walking in ancient humans. It's all about the opening called the large foramen magnum, through which the spinal cord connects to the brain. In this child, it is located in front of the skull, which is typical for creatures that move on 2 legs, unlike monkeys, in which it is shifted back. We learned about the age of the Taung child through the study of teeth. The first molars were just beginning to erupt, which indicates that the child was very young. He was just over 3 years old. Scientists suggest that he was attacked by an eagle, which killed him. It's all about the unique marks found at the bottom of the baby's eye sockets. They are very similar to those left by eagle claws and beaks when they attack monkeys. This hypothesis is also pushed by the finds of eggshells found at the site and an unusual set of animal bones, mostly small ones, which often become the prey of modern birds of prey. Tomb of the Magician. In Saqqara, the necropolis of ancient Memphis, archaeologists have discovered the tomb of the royal physician Teti Nebfu, who lived about 4,000 years ago. According to the surviving inscriptions on the walls and sarcophagus, it has been established that he served under the Pharaoh Pepi II and held many titles: chief physician of the palace, chief dentist, director of medicinal plants, priest and magician of the goddess Selket. Since Selket patronized dangerous creatures with poison, scientists believe that Teti Nebfu knew how to treat poisonous bites. Despite the fact that the tomb was partially looted, its walls have been preserved in excellent condition and are decorated with bright paintings, scenes of offerings, a false door, ritual images. In addition to royal burials, burials of royal officials, including associates and servants of Pepi II, were previously found in Saqqara. Recently, several stone sarcophagi with hieroglyphs dedicated to the gods of Upper and Lower Egypt were also excavated there. According to experts, the splendor of Teti Nebfu's final resting place speaks to the high status of healing and magic at that time. The Egyptians had deep knowledge of anatomy, knew how to treat serious illnesses, and considered words and rituals to be as important as medicines. Lost Golden City. Under a layer of sand that is thousands of years old, scientists have discovered an ancient city in Egypt. Under the guidance of the famous Egyptologist Zahi Hawass, the city was found near Luxor, where the Valley of the Kings is located. This city, known as Aten, is the largest ever discovered in Egypt. It is about 3,000 years old. It was founded during the reign of Amenhotep III and continued to be used under Tutankhamun and Ii. Scientists confidently declare that this is the second most important archaeological discovery after the tomb of Tutankhamun. Jewelry, colored pottery, amulets in the form of scarab beetles, and clay bricks with the seals of Amenhotep III were found here. Several districts have already been discovered at the excavation site, including a bakery with ovens and pottery storage, as well as administrative and residential quarters. Archaeologists are confident that this city will give us a new look at the life of the ancient Egyptians at a time when their empire was at the peak of its prosperity. Scientists hope that further excavations will bring even more amazing finds. Mystical petroglyphs. The distance from Egypt to Australia is 12,500 kilometers. However, as archaeological discoveries show, this distance was easily surmountable for ancient man. The Gosford glyphs are mysterious petroglyphs discovered in a rocky area near the city of Gosford in Australia. These images on the stone amazed researchers with their similarity to ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. The glyphs depict scenes and symbols that indicate that these images may be indicative of possible contact between ancient Australian tribes and extraterrestrial beings, or even ancient Egyptian travels to Australia. Supporters of the paleo-contact theory claim that these glyphs may be evidence that in the distant past there were interactions between various ancient cultures or even with extraterrestrial civilizations. However, here too, skeptics come in and point out many inconsistencies and believe that the glyphs could have been created in the modern era, perhaps as a hoax, or are the work of local aborigines who used symbols similar to Egyptian ones. The question of the origin and authenticity of the Gosford glyphs remains open. At the moment, there is no convincing evidence confirming their antiquity or connection with extraterrestrial civilizations, which makes this find one of the most mysterious archaeological secrets of Australia. Ancient Egyptian bread. The bread, estimated to be between 3,369 and 3,406 years old, was found in the tomb of an architect who served Pharaoh Amenhotep III. The bread is an amazing example of how food was preserved thanks to the advanced mummification techniques used by the ancient Egyptians. The Egyptians mummified not only their bodies, but also the food they believed the dead could use in the afterlife. The process involved treating the food with salt, drying it slowly, binding it, and coating it with resin to protect it from deterioration. The loaves show traces of their characteristic texture and shape, confirming their origin and ritual role. The bread was a symbolic and practical preparation for life after death, reflecting the Egyptians' deep belief that they would need everything they had on Earth in the afterlife. Homo naledi. At the Rising Star Cave in South Africa in 2013, a team led by Lydenburg discovered the remains of more than 15 Homo naledi. This find is the largest collection of one type of ancient people found in Africa. Unexpectedly, another 133 Homo naledi specimens were found in the adjacent Naledi room, belonging to at least 3 individuals, 2 adults and 1 child. And this was done in just one expedition. Interestingly, the teeth of Homo naledi differ from the teeth of other Homo species that lived in the same era, which may indicate a different lifestyle and environment. Unraveling the mystery of the mummified bishop. Today we have an unusual story from the 17th century. A small mummified fetus was found between the legs of the prominent Bishop Peter Winstrup. Bishop Winstrup was a prominent figure in the Lutheran Church, and after his death in 1679, he was buried in the crypt of the cathedral in Lund. Scientists have been trying for several years to understand who this baby is, and thanks to DNA analysis, they determined that he is most likely the grandson of a bishop. The boy was not fully developed, and the researchers suggest that his mother had a miscarriage in the 6th month of pregnancy. The bishop and the child share 25% of their genetic material, indicating second-order kinship. After analyzing the baby's DNA and Winstrup's family tree, scientists came to the conclusion that the boy is the son of the bishop's son. The grandson was buried along with his grandfather. This case once again underlines how unusual and fascinating it can be to study the past with the help of archaeology and genetics. After all, this is how we can restore stories that have gone untold for centuries. The cost of building the Cheops pyramid. We are used to skyscrapers that grow with the help of metal frames and modern technology, but the Cheops pyramid, built around 2600 BC, still amazes the imagination. Its height reached 146 meters, and only by the 13th century AD did buildings appear higher. To To understand how much it would cost to build such a pyramid today, historians and engineers estimated the costs of stone, transportation, salaries, crane rental, and other details. The amount is impressive, about $5 billion. After all, about 2.5 million cubic meters of limestone will be needed, for which you'll have to go to quarries, and for the interior cladding, thousands of tons of granite from Aswan, located hundreds of kilometers away. Add to this designers, geologists, fuel for transporting blocks and giant cranes. In ancient times, everything was done by hand. It is believed that thousands of free workers worked on the construction site, regularly changing teams that received decent food and housing. They moved multi-ton blocks along ramps using wooden rollers and erected a colossal structure that was surprisingly precise in its fit. Even today, it is impossible to fit a knife blade between some of the stones. According to some experts, the construction took from 20 to 27 years. About 2 tons of meat were needed daily to feed the workers, not counting grain, vegetables, and water. It is noteworthy that the project itself was headed by Homo, the pharaoh's nephew, who actually acted as the chief architect. It was he who coordinated the work of tens of thousands of people, which in itself speaks of the impressive organization of labor in ancient Egypt. Today, the pyramids remain not only an object of historical heritage, but also a source of eternal questions about what humanity is capable of in order to realize ambitious goals. For the Egyptians, the Pyramid of Cheops was more than just a building. It was a symbol of the pharaoh's power and the highest engineering achievement of its time, which still inspires us to bold achievements.
Australopithecus deyiremeda. Meet the new relative Lucy on our human family tree. Scientists led by Dr. Johannes Haile Selassie have discovered a new species of human ancestors, 3.5 million years old. These are very ancient and unique finds. After studying the jaws found in the Afar region of Ethiopia, scientists gave them a name, Australopithecus deyiremeda. It's interesting, but this ancestor lived at the same time as the Lucy we know. The species Lucy, or Australopithecus afarensis, existed from 2.9 to 3.8 million years ago, and its lifetime overlapped with the new species Australopithecus deyiremeda. Australopithecus deyiremeda differs from Lucy in the shape and size of its teeth and jaws, which tells us they ate different foods. Scientists have long argued whether only one species of human ancestors could exist at one time between 3 and 4 million years ago, which then turned into another new species. But this new discovery changes everything. This discovery is essential for our understanding of the ecology of early human ancestors. Now we have new questions. How different human ancestors, living at the same time and geographical area, could use the common area and available resources. Pyramids of Meroe. Everyone knows the huge pyramids of Egypt, but Sudan has the largest collection of these amazing ancient structures. What a twist, huh? Sudan is often associated with civil wars and disease, but this country is a treasure trove for lovers of culture and history. At the top of the list are the pyramids of Meroe. They were built in Nubia, one of the first civilizations of ancient Africa, and served as a place of eternal rest for the last pharaohs of the ancient city of Meroe. Over 200 pyramids, located on 3 sites, were built as royal graves for 40 kings and queens who ruled the kingdom of Nubia Kush for more than 1,000 years. This period is known as the Meroitic period. Unlike the pyramids of Giza, the pyramids of Meroe are built of granite and sandstone and are characterized by small bases and steep slopes. Many artifacts are found inside the tombs: ceramics, glass, quivers with arrows. Even despite the destruction, the pyramids retain their magic, especially at dawn and dusk. Bas-reliefs depicting scenes from ancient Egyptian mythology indicate a strong cultural influence. The eerie secret of the Black Death. A study of an ancient Egyptian mummy has shed light on the early spread of the deadly bubonic plague in North Africa. The 290-year-old remains kept in the Egyptian Museum in Turin have astounded scientists. Traces of the Yersinia pestis bacterium were found in the bones and even in the intestinal contents. It turns out that this disease penetrated the region long before the Black Death epidemic that raged in Europe in the 14th century. Until now, the oldest references to the plague came from Asia, 5,000-year-old finds in Russia and materials from Europe and Asia. But the mummy from Turin has confirmed for the first time that the dangerous pathogen also settled in ancient Egypt.
Scientists recalled that fleas were found in the village of Amarna, where the builders of Tutankhamun's tomb worked. They are the main carriers of the infection. There is even a reference in the Ebers Papyrus, over 3,500 years old, to a mysterious bubo filled with pus, suggesting that the plague may have spread from Nile rats to ship passengers, who eventually carried the disease throughout the Mediterranean. The Black Death thus became just a bright chapter in the long history of the plague, and it is now clear that its sinister waves swept across the world much earlier than previously thought, and Africa played a much more significant role in this process. Mysterious accessory from the future. Archaeologists have discovered wall carvings depicting objects similar to modern handbags. Some of these images are about 12,000 years old. The earliest were found in Turkey in the ruins of the megalithic temple of Göbekli Tepe, where strange images are engraved on the columns of the ancient temple. Similar motifs have been discovered in Mexico, Iraq, and South America, raising many questions about the possible use of such objects by ancient civilizations. Although the images resemble handbags or clutches, experts believe the ancient ruins are more likely to depict baskets. Some believe that the concept of a handbag may have been invented by ancient civilizations. The first modern bag appeared in 1841 in England, created by Samuel Parkinson. The problem is that the Göbekli Tepe temple was built in 9000 BC, and its builders could hardly have known about such an accessory. Another ancient example of a handbag was found in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs written about 5,000 years ago, where the gods hold a small square object symbolizing prosperity. Archaeologists have indeed found remains of baskets and tool bags used by the ancient Egyptians, but they cannot yet say for sure what is depicted in the hieroglyphs. Similar discoveries were made in Iraq, among the ruins of an Assyrian palace built between 883 and 859 BC, which depicts a genie with wings holding what appears to be a handbag. Historian David Miano believes that these figures, called Apkallu, were minor deities who carried water buckets made from sacred date palms rather than purses. Ancient buckets similar to the engravings were actually found in Iraq. Similar motifs have also been found in Mexico among Toltec ruins, where giant statues hold objects resembling handbags. These statues were created around 750 AD. Alien sky blue stones. For billions of years, our planet has attracted many meteorites, and people have always collected their pieces. One of these is sky stone, or heavenly stone, discovered in 1990 by archaeologist Angelo Pittoni in Sierra Leone. Local legends say that these stones were creatures living in the heavens that God turned into stones and cast to earth for their sins. Pittoni sent the stone to laboratories in Rome, Germany, and Tokyo for analysis. The stone was 77% oxygen, 20% carbon and lime, with traces of silicon and other materials. The results of the analysis showed that the stone is different from any other stone on Earth and probably arrived here from 2.5 thousand to 17,000 years ago. Oldest Stone Age tools. Stone tools found in Kenya, older than the grandmother of dinosaurs, 3 million years old. But scientists cannot understand who created these masterpieces. These artifacts are the first cooking tools, rather for cutting meat and crushing plants, like ancient knives and blenders. It was a real breakthrough in history. The bones of antelopes and hippos were also found at the same excavations, and with obvious traces of these guns. And imagine our ancestors ate raw meat. Maybe they even made something like the ancient Tartar. These tools are so well made that they can compete with the fangs of a lion. And now the main plot twist. What if the tools were created not by our ancestors, but by other primates? The bones found nearby did not belong to Homo sapiens, but paranthropes, extinct primates. Perhaps the ancient apes were smarter than we thought. Ancient inscriptions of the pharaohs in the Nile. Archaeological divers at the bottom of the murky waters of the Nile in Egypt examined algae-covered rock formations. At first glance, the stones seemed unremarkable. However, upon closer examination, scientists discovered several inscriptions associated with the ancient pharaohs. A joint team of Egyptian and French archaeologists decided to explore the ruins in the reservoir in Aswan. Under a layer of algae, they found several carvings that were at least 2,300 years old. The images ranged from drawings of ancient Egyptian pharaohs to hieroglyphs. The photo shows several well-preserved carved figures, The shapes are blurred by water and quite difficult to distinguish. One set of lettering appears to be a row of mannequin heads above two objects that resemble tombstones. These ancient inscriptions are still being studied. Archaeologists believe that these finds will help to better understand how the ancient kings ruled in those distant times. Mysterious Nubian stone tablets. In the necropolis of Sadenga in northern Sudan, a huge collection of inscriptions in one of the oldest written languages of Africa, Meroitic, was discovered. This sandy area was once part of ancient Nubia, famous for its gold mines. Nubia was home to some of Africa's earliest kingdoms, and some of them even ruled Egypt as pharaohs. Archaeologists believe that Sadenga was a key site for trade routes leading directly to Egypt through desert roads. Most surprisingly, archaeologists have discovered the largest collection of texts in the Meroitic language. These inscriptions are commemorative and most likely dedicated to death. Many artifacts at Sedang were dedicated to high-ranking women. After all, in Nubia, a matriarchal society following the family lineage through the female line was very important. The continent continues to amaze with new discoveries. It's scary to imagine what else awaits us ahead. I hope Africa is still full of such mysteries, like in this video about the finds that forced scientists to rewrite history. See you on Kurtop.